Okay, so hello Narayan.
Yeah.
First, if you could tell me a bit about your course in Université Paul Sabatier, because I just have that, and I know that you did a space program over there.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little more about the program and how you got in, maybe, and
Yeah, sure. So mine was a European Union program where I studied in Germany, Sweden, and then in France. So France was really special because one thing, it's the biggest space industry in Europe, and what we studied was more on the space instrumentation part of it. A lot of our coursework was in French, and a lot of it was with French students. So we had a lot of interaction with the local industry as well as students. So it was really great.
Okay. Could you tell us a bit more about space instrumentation, maybe?
So generally, if you look at the Hubble Space Telescope or any of these bigger telescopes, I mean, it really takes a lot of effort from a lot of different scientists, big teams of people building these instruments so that we can discover a lot more of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So France, Toulouse, for example, is one of the hearts in the European sector where they build these kinds of instruments. And so for us, in the university, it was mostly working with these professors and getting to know how these instruments are built and what are the basics of building these kinds of instruments and so on.
So it sounds interesting. And was it, so you did one semester in Paul Sabatier and then you went to these other countries? How did the course work?
So I first moved to Germany and then Sweden, and then I went to France. So based on my experience in France, I wanted to do something in bioastronautics, which is more towards the human spaceflight program. So then I went to the German Space Agency, which is a DLR, and continued some of my work there as a thesis. Mm-hmm. But of course I came back to my university in France and presented a lot of this work and so on.
Okay, that's great. Did you also do an internship in France as a part of your course?
Not really, not an internship, but it's just coursework that I did there, so not a complete internship, no.
All right.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about life in general in France, little things that surprised you, shocked you culturally or even education-wise?
So one thing is that people are really warm, and the food is really great considering other parts of Europe. So especially I'm a big fan of cheese, for example.
Any particular French cheese?
So particular ones, I like this the goat cheese and also the blue cheese, for example. A lot of people don't like this kind of cheese. So, but yeah, these are really like authentic and they have a very good flavor of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it was a pretty great experience because they have, I think, more than like 2,000 or 3,000 types of cheese there. So yeah, so that's and also the culture is very much like India. It's very diverse. So if you go up north, you go to Brittany or something, you have the crepe and so many other things, and then you come down south, there's a lot of kind of seafood and other things. So it's very culturally vibrant as in India, considering other European countries.
So yeah, I suppose you had a gastronomic travels in Europe, not just space-related ones.
Yeah, I mean, I generally like exploring food. So, and considering Northern Europe to be very blunt, Southern Europe, especially France, is really, really nice.
Yeah. A bit maybe about what you did after your course. You said you went to Germany, then Sweden, and then France. So after your coursework got over, your thesis is done, your course is finished, what did you do?
So what I did was I got along with a friend of mine in the course. He's also a French scholarship holder.
Okay.
So his name is Sanjay, and we came back to India and kicked off our own company here in Bangalore. So we graduated in 2012, and that's when we moved back to India and started Dhruva Space. Mm-hmm. It's a small satellite company based out of Bangalore, and now we're about 2 years old, and we're planning to build the first Indian private satellite.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And what were your plans to take this forward? I guess with you and Sanjay would be the ones taking this project forward. So are you looking for? I mean, honestly, this is where I'm a bit new. So I've heard of crowdfunding. I've heard of startup people who are going to people who are already a part of these fields and looking for funding. So how are you guys going about it?
Yeah, of course. One thing is we've invested a lot of our time and money itself on one part, but of course we're also looking out for people who could support us technically, financially, and all these things. So yes, but in itself we see this as an achievement because in 50 years of Indian space history, there's not a single private company which flew an entire satellite. and that's where we want to make our mark here. So, additionally, it's also an avenue for us to open up the Indian space sector to a lot of students in Europe. So, in this effort, I've also made sure that a few students from Europe come to us here in India and they work with us. So, recently had 2 students from my university come down to India, and they did their internship and thesis with us. So that way it's a great exposure, because normally it's just one-way traffic, right? So a lot of Indian students going to France, and I don't know much about French students coming to India, especially to the private sector and so on. So this way we are trying to open things up so that we give back something as well.
Sounds great, actually. Yeah. So you had 2 students from Paul Sabatier who came down and worked here. Okay, that's great. And you said your offices are based out in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Could you tell me a little more about your project in Mexico? It sounded fascinating.
So we every year we try to go to the UN conference on small satellites. So it's one of the biggest small satellite conferences, and which is represented by all the UN nations. So this year we're going to present on the current progress of our company in the last couple of years, on our projects which have been going on and what we've been trying to do here in India. So it's essentially we probably are the only private guys in India who will probably represent India there. So it's more or less trying to give the message to the world that yes, India has an active and a vibrant private sector that is coming up in space, and you guys need to look into this sector as well, not just the software or BPO or something outsourcing sectors, but also look at the space sector, which is pretty big in India.
Sounds great. Yeah. And you'd be there for a week, I suppose. You get to meet other people who are also into the private sector, or is it mostly going to be government officials? What do you have an idea of how
it's a mix of everybody. So the UN, there are key decision makers from the government side. There are policy makers. There are legal experts as well as technical guys, scientists, and so on. So it's a very good mix of everybody. And since space and especially the small satellite community is so small, so we get to meet them, and over a period of time we become really kind of close friends. So it's also a kind of a summit for all the friends to get together every year in a different place and see what's going on in what place, and how each of us can help each other. So that's one of the aims.
That sounds great, and it'll be in Mexico this year, you said.
Yeah.
So, well, you've already told me, I just made a few questions, and you've already told me that I have a feeling that you're already in touch with your professors. That's how you must have gotten the students to come down for their internship. And do you still feel that you have a connection with France apart from Paul Sabatier? Are there institutions or friends back there that you're still in touch with for your work?
Yeah, lots of them actually. So a lot of my friends come down to visit India. So I mean, people in France are really fascinated about India, and especially, for example, Pondicherry and so on. So yeah, of course, a lot of friends come and visit every year. So I have friends doing things not just in space but outside of space, starting from how to make wine to how to be a kind of a massage therapist. So all of these array of different kind of people who come visit India. So it's really great. As even the professors, they're pretty motivated to ask these French guys, the students themselves, to look at the outside world and learn from the developing world as well. So in a way, it's we're trying to create a mix of everything. So it's a really nice experience to go to France and come back and make these connections.
Sounds great. And do you have any nice message for students who want to get into space studies? Because I have a feeling it's not a course that in India, I did arts, for example. But it's something that not everyone readily walks into. It's engineering or commerce that students pick up. So in that situation, someone like you who has done space studies and has done such a myriad of things with the course, and then you've come back and you've set up your company. So what do you think it takes to make that different decision of picking up space studies and not the traditional engineering?
Yeah. So I believe that most people, even as young children, are fascinated about the sky and the stars. Everybody is fascinated about it. The only issue for us, especially the Indian students, is that we don't follow our passion and dreams to the end of it. So my message would be to make sure that, or to see how you can actually leverage whatever you have and go the distance and find out if it's right or wrong, instead of just being bound by few boundaries that you set for yourself. So that's it.
Okay.